Yeah, and it happened with all the noise in the lead up to this council election about how hopeless the Liberals were for failing to get their act together to run nominees. So we have to see it in that context, don't we?
Absolutely, and I think it's really what it's showing again is just, as we've talked about many times, this splintering of the vote that Australians are increasingly checking out of this electorate being Labor versus Liberal type contest. We're seeing the votes spray in a range of different areas. There's plenty of opportunities for that at a local government level, perhaps more so than at a federal government election. But nonetheless, this sort of appetite for a different place to place your vote is just increasing. And every time now we go to the poll, we just see this same trend happening. And I think, leading into this federal election, again, you and I have talked about this before, but I think we are looking at a really messy result.
How did the Greens go in the council election? What does that tell us about what might happen federally? I say that with a bit of caution because I know in council elections the Greens can be a little bit more popular because of environmental issues in certain areas, and there's not necessarily that extrapolation to a federal level.
Yeah, that's right. Their vote tends to be quite patchy. It depends on those areas where they run hard and run on those issues that are germane to their brand. Again, brand being really important. So I didn't see anything particularly surprising about the Green vote in the council elections, but I think the broader issue there, and we're sort of seeing it playing out around housing at the moment, is still this issue of the inflow outflow problem for them. The sort of positions they're adopting, which might appeal to younger voters, are still causing a problem for them in sort of those Gen X sort of vintage voters with a bit of grey in their beard. That inflow outflow problem for them is still pronounced, but yeah, nothing particularly surprising in there.
We saw a freshwater poll yesterday as well that showed that, yes, again, what we've been talking about for many months, that a minority government hung parliament is the most likely scenario here. But the first time it kind of put Peter Dutton in the frame on the other side of that minority government. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's still more difficult for the Liberals to form minority government, just because if you look at the sort of the composition of who the crossbench are likely to be, I just think the sort of the internal politics, the parliamentary politics of that is more difficult for the Liberals. But in terms of the electoral politics, yeah, absolutely, it will be neck and neck as to who will get the most seats. It's really tightened up that race, but I don't see either of them getting there at the moment. So it's going to come down to those parliamentary politics.
Yeah, BCA is attacking, you would have seen, the economic credentials of the Albanese government today. And of course, you'd expect Anthony Albanese to bat those criticisms away, saying 1 million jobs have been created, they've halved inflation, etc., etc. But does this hurt Labor or, a big business in that frame in voters' minds at the moment where it doesn't really touch the sides?
I don't think it particularly hurts in itself, but I think it just adds to this sort of narrative of this government just isn't doing anything on the economy. So even big business are calling for this government to do more. So I think in that sense, it just feeds into that narrative. But as for the BCA itself and its voice, yeah, it can be counterproductive or it can be productive. If Labor was really running a big reform agenda and the BCA was coming out criticising that reform agenda and voters felt like that reform agenda was in their favour, the BCA criticism wouldn't touch the sides. In fact, it might even help Labor a little bit in that sense. But in a sense where voters are saying not much happening, and now you've got another voice saying there's not much happening, we need more reform, I just think it just piles on to that narrative that's sort of there in people's minds.
Yeah, really interesting indeed. Simon, always good to talk to you. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Laura.